Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marcagiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio, where we provide actionable health information on a week-to-week basis that can help you improve your life. Feel free, head over to justinhealth.com, where we have various opt-in video series on more in-depth health topics such as female hormones, thyroid, and gut health. Also, while you're there, feel free and schedule a consult with myself, Dr. J, and or my colleagues. We're available worldwide to provide natural health support for any of your major health issues. Again, welcome to the podcast and enjoy the show. And we are live. It's Dr. J here in the house with Evan Brand. Evan, how are we doing today, man?
I'm doing well. I've got an article here. We're going to start this show off. This is all about sleep today. Issues that affect sleep. How do we mitigate the effect of stress on sleep and gut and all of it. But first, Pepsi, good old PepsiCo. They're launching its newest beverage, the de-stressing and relaxation promoting Driftwell. This is just all about, what's my point of this? That becoming healthier is becoming mainstream. So anyway, they've created a sugar-free, non-carbonated water flavored with a hint of blackberry and lavender with 200 milligrams of L-theanine, which you and I have talked about for years and years and years and years and years. Theanine being an amino acid that helps to increase GABA, comes from green tea, but you can also take it in supplement form. Here's the thing I don't like about this thing, though. Number one, it's 7.5 ounces. I don't really want to drink 7.5 ounces right before I go to sleep. If I'm going to take theanine, I would much rather just take a capsule of 200 to 400 milligrams of theanine and go to sleep. And then the second thing is they're wanting to sell this thing for $18 for a 10-pack. That's $1.80 a dose, basically, versus you and I, if we're going to get a professional-grade theanine, we're probably getting, maybe 100 or 200 capsules for $20.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit more on the expensive side, kind of per dose, but you're definitely paying for convenience. So, I'm all about if a company can create a product like this without the artificial sweeteners, dyes, and colors, and it's using a clean water, reverse osmosis kind of water source, and it has some of these nutrients in there, and it makes it convenience, because it really comes down to, can people do it, right? If you don't do it, if you don't apply it, you don't get the benefit. So, hey, that's a really good first step in the right direction. I mean, I'll still take the supplements, from a raw material standpoint, like you mentioned, but if we can get some non-healthy minded people to jump on board that train, that's great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, imagine if we could get people to switch over from, doing a nightly beer. Let's say they do beer at night, but instead they could just do this theanine drink. That'd be a hell of a lot better for their gut and their brain. And, theanine has benefits for the brain too. It's not just the sleep. They're kind of promoting it as a relaxation drink, but I take theanine daily and it definitely helps to buffer stress. It's just something that, it's not like a sedative. I mean, it's not a chill pill. It's not like a passion flower would do for your sleep, but it definitely just kind of settles the mind a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, my nightly routine is typically some magnesium and some vitamin C. And then if I'm going to do any alcohol or any cheating kind of things food-wise, I'm going to be doing some glutathione or N-acetylcysteine and maybe some charcoal as well. And then if you have any issues peeing before bed, just try to drink that an hour or two before bed. And that kind of sets in. And then, one of the nice things people are doing today, a lot of the glasses have a blue light filter. So I upgraded my glasses that I typically use when I watch TV to a blue light filter. So nice blue light, really nice. And then, of course, one easy investment we all can make is just get dimmer switches on all your main lights that you're going to have on at nighttime. And just kind of get those dimmers down 80% or so. That's going to help a ton. If you wear a reading glass or a glass for reading or TV, get a blue light filter in there. Or just get one of those nice blue light glasses that you can put over on anyway without a prescription on there. And that's very helpful to kind of get your body in that parasympathetic state that we talk about so much.
Yep, I use Iris. You can check it out. Get Iris. If you just search that, you'll find it. Iris Tech is a company who, they're a competitor to Flux. It's better because it does have supposedly has some anti-flicker built in, so it can help reduce the flicker rate of your screen. So smartphones, Windows computers, Macs, you can use Iris. I leave it running 24/7. I have it on right now. So when I'm looking at Justin on the screen here, he's a nice tan golden color to me, which looks good, and it definitely reduces eye strain. My eyes at the end of the day, we're looking at labs all day, so what we do is hard on the eyes, and my eyes would just be exhausted. But once I run it at a more warm color, I definitely have less fatigue at the end of the day mentally.
Yeah, I'll put the link to some of the things that I do. I use the ViewSonic monitors that have a low flicker and low blue light naturally in there. And you could still run an iris in the background as well, but I highly recommend. I noticed my prescription the last year or two has actually gotten better. It's actually improved. My stigmatism, which is the shape of the eyes, also shifted as well. And I talked about it with my optometrist, and he said, it's possible that just you doing the blue light at night and you shifting over the monitors the last year or two could have helped with that. So, outside of nutrition being stable, lutein, all of the vitamin A precursors, I think shifting over the monitors, if you're someone that's on a computer all day, invest in really good blue light protecting technology and a good blue light monitor. Low blue light, low flicker, very important.
That's good advice. Yeah, so nighttime, we talked about that a little bit, but you mentioned dimmer switches, blue light glasses. I'm using just salt lamps at night. We have probably 6 or 7 salt lamps. We have some that are just salt lamp night lights that are plugged into the bathrooms. That's pretty convenient. Brush your teeth with just a salt lamp. It's just a nice, pretty warm glow. I haven't actually used a color, like a color device to check if there's blue light coming off of it. But it's a pretty darn warm color, and it's a little couple watt incandescent bulb. Incandescents are going to have less blue in them naturally, so we like to use a lot of the Edison bulbs. A lot of the Edison bulbs now have turned into LEDs, though. They'll look like Edison's shape with the filament inside, but it's LED, which is so annoying. So make sure you're actually getting the true Edison bulb. I use a company called Hudson Lighting. They make great Edison bulbs, and they're going to be around 2700 Kelvin, which is a really nice amber color. When you get up to the 4, 5, 6,000 Kelvin, those are like your fancy car HID headlights that are going to be really, really blue, kind of whitish, bluish color. That's not what you want at nighttime. It's amazing, I'm rarely out at night, but if we're out on the road, we'll drive past someone's home and we'll just see science lab lights on at 9 o'clock at night. It's no, those people aren't sleeping good tonight. Some people will argue with me, even my grandparents. I try to get them off of the TV in the evening or to wear blue blockers, and they'll say, I sleep fine. And it's yeah, but what's the quality of sleep? You're saying you're waking up 3 to 4 times a night to go pee. You're not well rested in the morning when you wake up. So yeah, you may say, quote, you sleep fine, but what's the quality? What's your energy level like? Are you crashing out by 11 a.m.? Because that would tell me your sleep is not so good after all.
100%, yeah. I 100% agree. So I think it's a good investment where if you wear glasses or contacts, look at getting a pair of night glasses that have the blue light filter in there. And some brands don't have a good blue light filter. So you can get a blue light where it tests the actual wavelength going through. I've seen some of these glasses really only filter out the violet, which is interesting. So they're kind of having a marketing ploy on it. So you'd want to go look at some of the reviews online. Make sure if you find a review where someone actually tests those glasses and sees if the blue light is blocked. But if you can get a significant amount of blue light blocked, even if it's 50% or so, and you got the dimmers on, well, that's a good first step for sure.
Yeah, and people listening may say, any kind of skeptics listening, which most of those weed themselves out. So most people that listen to us love listening to us. But any skeptics may say, well, why? Our ancestors, they didn't have blue light blocking glasses. Yeah, but they didn't have LED lights. They didn't have electricity in general. There was no artificial light at night. So when the sun goes down,
just stars
and you see
and the moon.
Yeah, when the sun goes down and the sky is turning red and orange, the blue light can't get through. When the sun's at a low angle, the blue light doesn't come through as much, and you naturally have a blue light filter. It's the atmosphere. And so at nighttime, when you have a fire, which is the only source of light you would have had at night, look at a fire. You may have a tiny bit of blue if you've got a really, really hot fire, but it's nothing. It's not going to impair melatonin production at all. And that's the issue here, is the artificial light at night is elevating cortisol, which is downregulating melatonin. And of course, melatonin is not just your sleep hormone. It's very important as an antioxidant too. Melatonin is something that's been shown in several studies to have some cancer protective benefits.
100%. And I'll put a couple links in here for people that are listening regarding my favorite monitors. I use the eye care monitors, and I think those have really been super helpful for me. So I'll put a link down below. People can access that. Okay, that's good. We talked about some of the blue light glasses. There's the Swanwick glasses. There's the True Dark glasses. Those are some good ones off the bat. You can jump on Amazon and look for some ones that have good reviews on there. I think those are great. There's some blue light glasses that go over glasses. So if you wear glasses, you can look for a pair of blue lights that go over that. That's on top of that. That if you want extra protection, you'll have that there. That's a good kind of first step in the right direction. Why don't we talk about mechanism? I think this is important. So we talk about the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. This is important. So the sympathetic nervous system is kind of controlled by the adrenal gland. So the sympathetic is the gas. It's the go, 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 stress, 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 stress. And the adrenals kind of are the gateway between the nervous system and the sympathetic response because of the cortisol response and the adrenaline response. So typically when there's some kind of a stress, adrenaline is the first thing that comes to the table, and then cortisol comes a little bit later. So think of adrenaline as the primer. It primes the pump, and then once the engine's going, now cortisol is flooding the zone afterwards. And so when you have a lot of these stress hormones going, you're, number one, going to be shunting blood flow to the arms and the legs to fight and flee. You're going to be making less enzymes and acids and digestive juices, so your digestion won't be as good. So if you're eating healthy, you're more likely to get bloated and gassy and have indigestion, and you're less likely to absorb a lot of those nutrients. So if you're eating lots of good amino acids and minerals, you won't be able to ionize them and absorb them properly. And so we want to do natural strategies that decrease that sympathetic nervous system response, which is going to help modulate adrenaline and modulate cortisol. And part of how we do that is we have to stimulate the parasympathetic side. So for instance, this new Pepsi product you mentioned, I'm not supporting Pepsi, but I'm supporting the mechanism. L-theanine is a good precursor that Evan mentioned to GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, and that's a inhibitory neurotransmitter. Think of it as the brake. It's the stop, the slow down. So think of the sympathetic nervous system response. It's the shifting gear going from first to second, third to fourth, fourth to fifth. It's going faster, faster, faster. The parasympathetics and the inhibitory response is downshifting. It's going from 5 to 4, 4 to 3, 3 to 2, 2 to 1, and then parking that car. And so things like GABA can be helpful. Passion flower, magnesium are excellent things. There's different adaptogens that we use, like holy basil and ashwagandha, that really help decrease and help downshift that stressed out engine and bring it to a lower gear where you can slow down and relax.
Oh, speaking of ashwagandha, this is funny too, man.
Yeah.
A lot of the things we've been talking about for a very long time are becoming more mainstream. I never have the radio on because I've got streaming radio in the car, so we never have the real radio on. And so this advertisement comes on, and it's, the typical radio announcer voice. It's this lady, and it's this... it's just talking about sleep and stress and all that. And the lady's like, introducing ashwagandha gummies, an Ayurvedic herb that's been used for thousands of years. It can really help you relax. And I thought, wow, a radio commercial for ashwagandha. This is hilarious. Times are changing.
That is funny.
So this is something that you and I use all the time clinically and personally, and it really does help. You can take ashwagandha during the day to help blunt stress, but you can also use it in the evening, take a dose before bed. Stephen Buhner, the herbalist I really love because of his books on Lyme, he talks about ashwagandha being very, very helpful in terms of calming down like brain inflammation, which can impair sleep associated with Lyme. So people that have bad sleep, or if you're waking up at 2 or 3 a.m. and you're kind of bolting awake or having nightmares, ashwagandha may be something to help. I'm a big fan of magnolia. Magnolia is a bark that can be very helpful. You and I have talked about relora in the past. Relora is actually a blend of 2 different plants. I believe it's 2 barks that are combined to create the patented relora. That's something clinically shown to help modulate cortisol at night. You mentioned the passion flower. I like to mix passion flower with motherwort, especially if it's a monkey brain situation. Motherwort can really help calm the racing thoughts, the racing mind. Motherwort's something that Rosemary Gladstar and many other famous herbalists, they recommend keeping it in your first aid kit or in the car. So if you get in a car wreck or if you have a traumatic experience, you could take a dose of motherwort and it'll really settle you down. With all the shutdowns and a lot of our clients that are running small businesses and other things, I've had a massive amount of reports of stress issues happening over the last 6 months. And so I really think the time that you and I are putting this out is important. It's always important, but it's more important now because once your sleep quality goes out the window, what happens then? Well, you have a shorter fuse. You are going to be more irritable. You could be more anxious. You could be more depressed. You may have cognitive issues, so you may not be making good decisions as a parent or as a boss or as a CEO. So, this affects every aspect of your life. You really cannot ignore this and just go pound the coffee first thing in the morning. You can do the coffee, but you've got to be making sure you're doing all the nighttime strategies as well.
100%. I love it. Really, really good points off the bat. Also, a couple other strategies I want to highlight is exercising too close to bed. So exercise It's a stress. It does activate the sympathetic nervous system because that's how you get blood flow to the arms and legs and to the extremities. And then, of course, cortisol is going to mobilize glucose in the muscles and such. And so that is part of the stress response. So you got to make sure the more your parasympathetics are stressed, right, your rest, digest part of the nervous system, the less strenuous, the less sympathetic stimulating exercise you should be doing. And of course, you need to allow more buffer time to transition back into the parasympathetics at bedtime. So if you're working out like at 6 or 7 o'clock and then you're trying to wind down at 9 or 10, asleep by 11, that may not be enough time. So the more stressed you are, you want to look at doing exercise first thing in the morning. And you always want to answer my 3 questions appropriately, all right? You want to answer positively to these 3 things. Number 1 is, do I feel better after the workout than when I started? Number 2 is, can I emotionally repeat the workout? Do you feel so depleted afterwards where you couldn't emotionally do it? Like you may like have that high where you're like, oh, I feel good. And then like you catch your breath like 10 minutes and you're like, oh, thank God that's done. You want to feel that sense of like, no, I could do that again. Like I could do it again. You want to feel that kind of a sense of accomplishment. And then number 3 is you want to feel not excessively sore or beaten up afterwards. So that next morning you wake up, barring the fact that you slept good and all that's okay, you didn't drink alcohol, you want to feel not excessively sore. With the exception if you throw in maybe a new exercise you haven't done in a while, maybe some lunges or a deadlift. Outside of something that's a full body movement, you shouldn't feel overly beaten up.
Yeah, good points. And it's possible you could use some of those herbs to try to calm down that response, right? If your work schedule just doesn't allow it and you had to do a 6, 7 p.m. workout, like you said, maybe it's not too intense, so you still could settle down, but maybe you do take a dose of some type of an adrenal cocktail after the workout. I think that could be really smart. And then let's go into a couple other
mechanisms. Just to highlight one thing before we move on topic.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, if that's the only window, there's 3 major levers with exercise: frequency, intensity, duration. So frequency is how often you work out. Is it every day? Are you taking a day off in between, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday kind of thing? And then, of course, that's frequency. Intensity is how hard are you working out, as well as the rest in between. So like a compound lift, like a deadlift or a front squat, right, is going to be a lot harder than like a bicep curl or a military press, right? The more you activate, the more joints you activate, the harder it is. So you could shift away from multi-joint stuff, or you do multi-joint stuff with less weight, okay, and provide more rest time between sets. And then duration, of course, is going to be how long the workout is, right? Instead of a 45-minute workout, you go to a 30 or a 20. So you just keep on frequency, adjust the frequency, how many days, intensity, kind of workout lifts you're doing, the weight as well as the rest time, and then the duration is the overall length of the workout, cutting that down. So you can move the lever on those. And I always recommend the easiest first thing is allowing a day off in between to recover, and then keeping the workout shorter, right? Charles Poliquin did research on this, finding that the cortisol response starts to significantly elevate once you go longer than 45 minutes. So keeping the workout under 45 minutes, and if you're really stressed, probably 20 to 30, and just rely on more circuit type of workouts to get the exercise done. So do 3 movements in a row, upper, lower, upper, or front, back, front, however you want to pair it. That way you can get a lot more volume and exercise accomplished in a shorter amount of time.
Yep, that's good advice. I wanted to talk about the gut, and we could probably mention blood sugar too. I know that when I had gut infections, my sleep was terrible. Now, the mechanism of it, I mean, that's debatable. You and I could try to tease this apart together. I think ultimately the answer is getting rid of gut infections is going to improve sleep in many ways, but I think one of the mechanisms is probably some of the gut bugs possibly affecting blood sugar, because the gut bugs are eating and they're feeding on your nutrition. So I definitely had more hypoglycemia issues, and hypoglycemia, if that blood sugar is crashing, blood sugar gets too low. You and I have talked about this. The adrenals have to pinch hit basically and try to help out to get that glucose regulated. So if blood sugar is crashing, maybe you're not eating enough with meals. Maybe you didn't have enough fat or protein with dinner, or maybe you ate too early. If you ate at 5 and you're going to bed at 10, that's already 5 hours, and the blood sugar may be dropping to a level that's too low. And then if you compound that with having gut infections, then you really could get into trouble.
100%. And like you mentioned earlier, the stress and the inflammation from a gut infection, we see it when we do adrenal cortisol rhythm testing, is we'll start to see a premature elevation in cortisol in the morning. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, we have this natural cortisol rhythm. People watching on video, I'm going to do some demonstrations, but cortisol comes up in the morning, and then it comes up in the morning, but it really increases that first hour of waking. It's going to double from when you woke up to 1 hour later. So it starts, here's waking, here's 1 hour later, and then it gently curves. Here's bedtime, and then as you sleep, it's kind of flat and then gently starts to go up like this. So when you have gut infections and inflammation in the gut, and most infections are on an opposite sleep and wake cycle than we are. So the more active they are means more inflammation. More inflammation means what? More of a cortisol response, so that cortisol prematurely starts to rise in the middle of the night. And then that can start to take you out of deeper sleep and cause you to wake up earlier. So by addressing gut infections, you're naturally supporting that healthy circadian rhythm. And of course, if we can support natural anti-inflammatory support, that also takes stress off the adrenals, because the adrenals are one of your number one anti-inflammatory mechanisms, right? Cortisol, aka cortisone, and then pharmaceutical prednisone are all anti-inflammatory mediums that conventional medicine uses for topical skin or asthma inhaled or injections in the joints, right? For inflammation. So we have our natural anti-inflammatories that we want to work on supporting and utilizing.
Yep, and we've mentioned this, but just to repeat, so the cortisol is down-regulating melatonin. That's the mechanism. So people that just go take melatonin, that may help, but I would argue that it's not necessarily root cause. And so that's why we're going to be running these panels to look at the hormones. We're going to be running testing to look at the stool. We're going to be running panels to look at the urine and try to confirm what's going on. Just to be clear for people listening or that are not aware, we're clinicians. We deal with this stuff every day, all day clinically. And so we have thousands and thousands of case studies that we can report back from and tell you what's worked and what hasn't worked. If you go to your conventional doctor and you talk about sleep issues, just to quickly compare and contrast, it's going to be something like possibly a lorazepam if it's an anxiety-based sleep
like
issue.
A benzo, like a benzodiazepine that works on GABA. Yeah.
Exactly. So you're going to get a benzo, which are highly, highly addictive and habit-forming, or possibly you're going to get something like an Ambien, which in terms of pharmaceuticals, I will tell you some of the hardest drugs for people to get off of are the benzos and the Ambien, which I don't even know what category Ambien is in, but man, people really, really struggle to get off of that one.
100%. So you're going to have Ambien, right? You're going to have Lunesta. And you're going to have your benzos. They may even be using some SSRIs to increase serotonin, which then increases melatonin. I think it's Rosarum, which is a GABA, kind of in that GABA benzo family. So Rosarum, I mentioned Lunesta and Ambien. What else is there? I think there's Trazodone's another one that I think is used sometimes for sleep as well. So those are a lot of the common sleep medications, and they don't really address root cause, and that's the problem. And then a lot of the sleep medications, like we mentioned, the Ambien or Lunesta, they don't allow deeper restoration of sleep. So you kind of have like your 4 phases of sleep, right? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and then you go from phase 4 to 3, 2, 1. So this is like one cycle is 1, 2, 3, 4 phase to 4, 3, 2, 1. And you don't really get to go into these deeper 3 and 4 levels where REM sleep and deep restoration happen. So we want to avoid medications that prevent us from getting into deep sleep. So that being said, we want to make sure we sleep. So we want to utilize every natural mechanism possible. So with sleep, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. is that deep physical restoration where you have good physiological repair. And that's where growth hormone increases. And that's where we repair structural tissue and such, and bones and joints and ligaments, hair, skin, nails. And then we have the psychological, emotional repair typically between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. where a lot of our neurotransmitters and hormones kind of turn over that help us with mood and energy and emotional stuff. And supposedly a lot of our dreams are us processing a lot of our emotional stress throughout the day, right? So we want to make sure we get to sleep on time. That's really important, right? The hours before midnight are really important. And we want to make sure that we're getting the good time of sleep. We want to make sure that we're decreasing light exposure, which it takes away from our melatonin. And then we want to make sure that we are just having good nutrients on board. So when we're sleeping, we have the raw materials, amino acids and fatty acids, to provide the building blocks to assist in the repair process.
Yeah, vegetarians, vegans, they have a lot of sleep issues historically, and I would argue it's due to the lack of these amino acids that you need to really help fuel some of these neurotransmitters. So back to
And then
the
I
Ambien
want
real
to
quick.
just hit that because you hit something really
Yeah.
important. And then when vegetarians and vegans get a lot of the amino acids, they're not really bioavailable. So if you go look at the bioavailability of amino acids in vegetarian, vegan foods, they're not very bioavailable. Now, vegans and vegetarians can get by with free-form amino acid supplementation, a high-quality pea protein, maybe a rice protein. So they can get by with amino acid supplements, but it's very hard from a raw standpoint, meaning you're just relying on whole foods to get those amino acids. And when you typically do combine them appropriately, you get a ton of carbohydrates. So if you're more insulin resistant, or more carbohydrate sensitive, you don't do well with carbs, that could cause more blood sugar issues and more sleep issues with that.
Yep. So back to the drug. The drug name is Zolpidem, sold under the brand name Ambien. Anyway, we talked about alcohol a while ago. We talked about some of the date rape drugs and some of the bad stuff that people do. Apparently,
GHB.
apparently this drug actually was used or has been used as a date rape drug as well. And so it is a non-benzodiazepine. But guess what? It's a GABA receptor agonist. So it works by increasing GABA, binds to the same location as benzo. So tricky little varmints. It's a non-benzo, but it binds to the same GABA receptor as a benzo. So to me, it's a freaking benzo. Not technically, but in terms of the addiction potential and the withdrawal and the adverse effects and the dependency, it's no good. So
yeah, same thing with Lunesta here. I'm looking at some of the mechanism of action on Lunesta, same kind of thing. It has a coupling interaction with the GABA receptor sites. So kind of it's coupled with like a benzo, so it's kind of very similar to a benzo. And then the Rosarum, it works on some of the M2 receptor sites. I think some of the same receptor sites that work on melatonin. So I'm pretty sure it's like a melatonin kind of agonist, if you will. Yeah, right here. Rosarum is a highly selective melatonin receptor site type 1, type 2 agonist. So what does that mean? Agonist means it helps the melatonin in those synapses to be, it increases it, it stimulates it, it whips it a little bit and kind of gets it a little bit more into gear, if you will. Now, I'd much rather be using melatonin as a whole, because I'd rather just provide more of that building block or more of that raw material to help, right? And gets more natural than just being an agonist and upregulating the receptor sites to it. And of course, even before that, I'd much rather use a lot more of the amino acids like 5-HTP and B6 and providing more of the building blocks so we don't disrupt too many feedback loops.
Or the herbs just to help regulate the adrenals, and then you stay away from this crap completely. But
it depends on how bad it is. So
news?
we kind of always start low and then work our way up. So there's always kind of like an algorithm in how we are applying things. Because even natural, we want to do the least invasive to the most invasive if we need it. But of course, sleeps are such a huge tenet in our body's ability to heal.
Yeah, and why is this not on the nightly news? Well, I mean, Big Pharma is highly involved in the media companies, right? So they're not interested in melatonin, which is what, maybe a quarter or maybe 50 cents per dose. They want pharmaceuticals because there's a lot more money involved, and you can't patent it. You and I have discussed this patent issue many a times. So they can't patent theanine.
When you just look at the mechanisms, right? Like, look what they're doing, like with Rosarum. It's an agonist on the receptor site. So what they do is they kind of skate the surface, they kind of tiptoe around it and try to figure out, okay, this mechanism is important. How can we monkey around with the receptor site and adjust that and make it better or stimulate the receptor sites to be more sensitive? So they're kind of looking at what the actual mechanism is, and then they try to just skirt the periphery on it to make it work better. Right. Which a lot of times have side effects because that's what typical drugs do. They have side effects.
That's right. So I got into the nutrition piece a little bit, talked about kind of the
and then
fat and
just
the protein.
one thing, sorry. And they have to do that. So people thinking, well, I don't understand. Like, what's the point of that? Well, you can't patent a natural compound. So when you have things like melatonin or natural amino acid compounds, you can't patent it. So they know these mechanisms are already helpful. So you hire a whole bunch of chemists to go in there and biochem people to go in there and figure out, okay, this is the mechanism. What can we do to create a synthetic compound? Maybe we just create like an isomer or something that looks very similar that buffers or adjusts the receptor sites, but is synthetic were enough where they can patent it. So that's why they can't patent natural things. That's why they look at already known mechanisms and they try to adjust it and alter it just a little bit so they can patent it.
And it never works as good as the natural stuff.
It never will, because of the fact that you can't improve upon Mother Nature. You just can't.
Yep, I know. I love the herbs. I love them. So I hit on the whole like not enough fat and protein piece, and I see that a lot. Like I mentioned, the vegetarian vegans. I mean, typically these people are depressed, they're anxious, and their sleep is crap. Now,
Correct.
The one happy vegan listening, good for you, but talk to me in 5 years, and I'll be curious to see what happens. But back to the blood sugar piece. So there are some things that you may need to do to help with the blood sugar. That could just be something as simple as eating like a little fat bomb before you go to bed. I mean, it could be like a little piece of some coconut oil or some coconut butter or maybe grass-fed butter or maybe, I don't know, a couple almonds or macadamias or pecans or something that can help just kind of throw a little bit of fat on the fire before you go to bed. And that could do a huge, huge thing.
Correct. Some also do really good with a little bit of fat and maybe a tiny bit of carbohydrate, whether it's a handful of berries or a little bit of honey. And sometimes that can be helpful because the little bit of glucose can help the amino acids cross the blood-brain barrier. So if you go so low carb at night, sometimes those amino acids can't cross. And so I kind of go both ways. Try with less sugar. And then if you need a little bit of sugar with a little bit of fat and protein, then you can always add a little bit of sugar just to help the amino acids cross that blood-brain barrier.
That's smart. You know, I've tried that, like doing a chamomile tea, which is another easy, good strategy.
Yep.
I've tried chamomile just by itself and then chamomile with honey, and I will report with a little bit of honey, delicious.
Yeah.
But it does help a little bit with the sleep.
And just try it on both sides, because too much sugar can also create blood sugar swings and cortisol spikes when your blood sugar drops, and that can cause problems. So it's all about finding that right balance. So I always recommend start with none and then add just a little bit in incrementally.
Yeah, and we threw a lot at people. So where do you start with all of this? Well, I think the blue light, the lifestyle stuff, not exercising too close or too intensely before bed, I think all those things are great. Getting your bowels regulated, making sure that you're testing yourself for gut infections and getting those things addressed, and then reaching out to a practitioner like Dr. Justin or myself, because we deal with this stuff personally, we deal with this stuff clinically. We've done it countless times, and it's incredibly rewarding what we do because we're showing you on paper, where is this issue coming from? You know, some people blame it on their genetics, like, oh, my mother, she never slept good, or my dad, oh, he had terrible insomnia, he's on antidepressants, da-da-da. Okay, genetics are not your destiny, so I don't care how your parents sleep or not sleep. That is not your destiny. There are root causes that we can identify, and we can address these. We can get them on paper, and we can retest and show you, look, your B6 is back up. Great, because you needed that, because you were also low in serotonin, which you needed more of, because both of those ingredients, boom, make melatonin. You didn't have that recipe. And now on paper, you're reporting improved sleep. Hooray! But look at the labs. We can confirm you fixed the mechanism of these neurotransmitter issues and these nutrient deficiencies. And that is just why we do what we do.
Exactly. Other thing I would say is going to be female hormones. Female hormones play a big role, especially progesterone, because progesterone is a natural GABA chloride channel opener. Opens those GABA chloride, helps flood GABA into the zone, which helps you relax. So female hormone issues, especially for menopausal women, can be a big one. So we got to look at estrogen, estriol, and progesterone. That's really important. There are also kind of like, there are modulating supplements that can be helpful that may not plug into the root cause. So when I'm with the patient, I'm working them up, I'm trying to figure out what's the underlying mechanism. Or is it multiple systems? Meaning, is there poor digestion, indigestion, poor gut issues, and then autoimmune stuff with adrenals and thyroid, and maybe some detoxification issues. So we try to focus on each of those systems, work on the diet, like nutrient-dense, anti-inflammatory, low-toxin, get digestion good, stabilize blood sugar, flood nutrients into the zone, and then we're going to run organic acids, and we're going to see neurotransmitters. We're going to see B6, amino acid status. We're going to look at serotonin, dopamine, adrenaline. That can help on the amino acid side. We mentioned things like melatonin. That's always a later stage. Always want to do the amino acids first. But then there are things like California poppy, or like you mentioned, lemon balm or valerian or CBD. There's other like natural compounds that are out there that can be helpful, that may help either kind of attenuate that sympathetic response. It may help just kind of upregulate GABA a little bit. It may just have a very kind of sedative, kind of relaxing effect, usually working as a natural kind of benzo, right? And flooding with GABA. So if you plug one of these natural things in, don't just think that that's it. Always try to trace it back to the mechanism that drove the issue to begin with. You really always want to think root cause and then expand out. And if you find a supplement that helps, try to always trace it back to what the original mechanism was. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, man. You just like opened up a whole new can of worms here. So I'm going to take a few minutes to unpack it.
Yeah.
You mentioned thyroid, you mentioned autoimmunity. So Hashimoto's, it's really common to have sleep issues because if that immune system is attacking the thyroid, all of a sudden you've got some of this hormone leaking out into the bloodstream. So some of the things that you and I will do, yes, we can use the herbs, but one could argue that even the herbs are not root cause because
Bingo.
If the antibodies are attacking the thyroid, yeah, it's great to go and use motherwort to calm the heart down, but the tachycardia that's causing the insomnia is coming from the thyroid, and this person is eating gluten. They're doing sandwiches for lunch. So we got to work backwards on getting those thyroid antibodies down.
Yes.
So
yeah, go ahead.
No, so that's my comment there, but then you opened up a whole nother can of worms. Make sure I circle back to mold and Lyme and co-infections real quick, but go ahead.
So just to highlight one thing, when we're working with patients, we're always thinking that way. We're always thinking, okay, we're going to try this, we're going to connect it back to the mechanism of action. But I know a lot of people are going to be listening. They're going to be like, oh, I'm going to try this supplement or that, and they're writing their list down of what things they're going to try. That's cool. But just, if you don't have that clinician's mindset, you may ignore the root cause. So if you have an issue where you're trying a couple of things and you're not quite getting the results, or it's a steady issue that's continuing to happen over the years, make sure you reach out to a good functional medicine doctor like myself or Evan, that we can kind of work you through that. But at least try a couple of things on your own, but don't ignore that root issue and get a good functional medicine person to help you if that issue is more chronic.
Yeah, I mean, because it's not a deficiency of passion flower, right?
Exactly.
So, just like we joke on drugs, it's not a deficiency of those either. Now, let's just briefly open up a whole other can of worms here. Lyme, mold, co-infections, mast cell issues. These things very, very, very much affected my sleep. And so Lyme really affects sleep. So make sure if you have a history of tick bites or if your partner has it, because it can be sexually transmitted, that you address it. You either test for it or you just try to go after it using herbs and see if you have a positive or negative reaction. I can tell you with confidence, just using Japanese knotweed for me improves my sleep quality. What's the mechanism? Well, Japanese knotweed is anti-inflammatory because of the resveratrol, but it does help to kill the spirochete, Borrelia burgdorferi, which causes Lyme. So that's that. And
Correct.
then mold. Mold really, really affects the nervous system, and it will downregulate melatonin. Dr. Shoemaker, he's kind of like the main medical doc that's talked about mold for many years. He discusses all the hormones that get affected. Your testosterone can go low. You can have issues with MSH, so then you start to burn easily and you can't get a good tan. And you can get your antidiuretic hormone is messed up. So now you're up in the middle of the night to go pee 3, 4, 5 times a night. And people report, well, I sleep fine, but if I didn't have to pee, I'd sleep better. It's like, well, what's the mechanism of the peeing? Is it a prostate? Is it a mold thing? Is it a toxin thing?
Adrenal issue?
Heavy metals. Yeah, adrenals.
You don't make enough aldosterone, you can't hold on to your fluid, so you're dumping your minerals all the time.
So if you're supporting adrenals, then aldosterone can come back up, right?
It's very possible. So supporting the minerals will help because you're just not going to have the loss of the minerals. So the minerals are really important for your cells to work well, sodium, potassium, and for your electrolytes and for your heart. So those are really important things to kind of keep in mind for sure.
Babesia, Bartonella, co-infections, any kind of co-infection, those can affect it. Chronic pain, of course, can affect sleep. So if you've got some type of an issue like mycoplasma that's affecting the joints, or maybe you've got Prevotella or some kind of bacterial infection attacking the joints that causes pain, that causes sleep issues, this is why you need help. You can't just go buy passion flower and assume all your problems are going to go away.
Yep. A couple other questions are coming in here live on the chat as we go. Yes, low thyroid hormone can cause sleep issues. I've seen reports of, and some patients who have low thyroid will even add one of their thyroid doses a little bit before bed, and that can help as well. So it just depends if you actually have low T3. You'd want to take it during the day, but then also sometimes at night it can be helpful. Sometimes just supporting it during the day is enough to spill into night and help with sleep. And yeah, things like pregnenolone right before bed can be a little bit stimulating. So anyone that has sleep issues will try to do their last dose of pregnenolone like around 3 p.m. DHEA less stimulating, but if you're on the fence, always do it really early just to rule that variable out and see if that's a problem or not.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, progesterone, I experimented with a little bit of that before bed. Wow. You can tell it hits the GABA receptors. I mean, whoa.
Progesterone's great. Like a lot of my female patients that need it, we'll do that, an hour or two before bed, and it really opens up the GABA. And if we need, we can throw in some extra L-theanine along with it, or some GABA itself, and that can be very helpful and really promote a lot of relaxation.
Yep.
Excellent.
Well, so the toxin piece, just the toxin piece, I think it's something that we didn't get into much till the end here, but it is something that would be in our standard workup where we'd be looking for these kind of hidden, more nuanced root causes. And just to restate, you could go from referral to referral in the conventional medical world, and you're never even going to get close to the conversations or information that we just provided you today.
No, I mean, it's hard. The conventional medical model, it's a 3 to 5 minute visit. They're just trying to collect just enough symptoms to figure out what drug they're going to prescribe, whether it's a Rosarum or a benzo or an SSRI or whatever other kind of mini-me new drugs that are out there. Mini-me meaning it's very similar to an old drug, just a new name, new patent, so they can re-up that 7-year patent. And that's kind of how a lot of conventional medicine works. They're not really diving in deep. They're not even really thinking about deep root cause mechanisms. They're just trying to get you to sleep. And it's sad, but it's a system that we're in. And I'm glad that we have information like this. It's out there at your fingertips so you guys can be more informed and take some action to get to the root cause.
Yeah, absolutely. If you need help, please reach out to Dr. Justin or myself. His website is Justin Health, justinhealth.com. My website, evanbrand.com. And we love that you guys are here with us. So more to come.
And put your comments down below. We really appreciate you guys listening, and I want to get some interaction about what you think, what's worked for you. I read the comments, so when I get feedback of like, oh, this worked or that worked, it really helps me because when you see thousands of patients like myself and Evan have, that's really how you get good. Like when you start off in this field, you get a really good base of physiology and biochem and nutrition. You apply it with yourself and your family and then patients around you. And then you grow as you get more patients and you get more data points. So it's very helpful. And then if you enjoyed today's podcast, please leave us a review. We'll put a link down below where you can click and you can leave us a review on iTunes. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, share this with all your friends and family on sleep drugs. We can't legally tell them to get off of it, but we'll show them a different path.
Yeah, and if you're on benzos, really important, that's a very, very, very slow taper. So if your doctor decides to take them off fast, be very careful. Sometimes these things have to be tapered over the course of a year. So just be very careful if you're on drugs and very dependent. You want to do it responsibly and very slowly with the prescriber as you kind of taper down and as you fix the root underlying issues.
Yeah, well said. I mean, you'll listen to this podcast, you'll be like, well, screw those drugs. I'm stopping.
I know.
Bad idea. Don't do that. Same thing with like hypertension medications. I mean, we've done podcasts on naturally regulating, blood pressure, and some people, oh my God, these drugs are terrible. I'm getting off of them. You can. You could get rebound hypertension. Same thing with the sleep drugs. You can have a lot of issues with the GABA receptor, being so saturated with the drug, and then you just going cold turkey. These are not cold turkey drugs. So just need to make sure.
My general recommendation is get the good foundations, diet, lifestyle, sleep, movement, hydration, get that there before you go in and ask that prescriber to start dropping the dose slow. So get the foundation right before you make any changes with any medication.
Yeah.
And make sure that prescriber is involved in what's happening.
Yeah, look, we want people to be healthy. We want them to be drug-free if possible, and if that's their goal and their long-term plan, we love it, but there's a time and a place. So just hang in there. I know it sucks. People get so mad. You notice that? They get mad. They're like, I don't want to be on this drug.
Yeah.
They say that so often. I don't want to take this, but I have to. That's okay. That's okay. I'm not judging you. It's okay if you need it for now. Let's get you healthy.
Yeah, and every now and then I find maybe there's like 1% of people that may have a hard time getting off of it, or we just can't get their sleep right. But I would say 99% of people we're going to be able to address and significantly improve their sleep. So stick at it. You have a really high percent of being in that 99%. So keep it up, and good luck for everyone listening.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let's wrap this up. JustinHealth.com for consults around the world, EvanBrand.com for consults around the world. We look forward to helping you. So take care. We'll talk to you later.
Have a good one, y'all. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com.